How I got here. From my dad's side, my grandpa was born in India with his 4 brothers. In 1947, his family moved to Pakistan because it was the time of Pakistan's independence and the partition of India. In Pakistan, my dad was born along with 3 brothers and 1 sister. In 1976, they all moved to Jeddah in Saudi Arabia for a better life, and because Karachi was doing horrible. When my dad was 17, he came to Scarborough for better schooling. He lived with my uncles through school. Immigration was being highly promoted during that time. A high standard of living, a high standard of education, job opportunities, free health care, and the fact of being in a multicultural country were some pull factors that convinced my dad on coming here and deciding to immigrate. Through school, he met my mom. They wanted to get married. The family came to visit for the wedding and left. My parents wanted to stay in Canada and have a family here because of the pros that came with being a Canadian citizen. My family convinced his family to move here permanently. Those days, immigration was easier, and those years, the laws had been changed to help families get back together. After having a kid, my brother, the family had finally moved to Canada and bought a large house for us all to live in Scarborough. From my mom's side, my grandfather was born in 1932 and raised in Pakistan. At 7, he went to England to look for work and ended up settling there. He called his brothers there and they all settled down together. At the age of 30, he went to Pakistan and married my grandmother. They came back to England for 5 years. My grandmother went to Pakistan to have her firstborn, and my grandfather moved to Canada because immigration opened up in England to settle in Canada in 1970. It was an opportunity to settle down in Canada. He wanted to come for better opportunities for his children and a better life. My mother was born and raised in Canada in the GTA and met my father through schooling. My brother was already a Canadian citizen. She moved in with my dad, had their firstborn, and then my father's family had arrived. They all moved into one big house. After 13 years of living together, my father and mother moved out with us into Mississauga. My mother's dad really liked Pierre Trudeau. He admired Trudeau for his efforts of creating a multicultural society and giving all Canadian citizens the same rights. My mother had told me one time that she had only seen her father cry 2 times. The time of Pierre Trudeau's death, September 28, 2000, was one of the times because of how much he respected him and thanked him for the future he was able to give his kids. If it wasn't for Pierre Trudeau and his acts for the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, there would be a lot of racism in this country. The Charter of Rights and Freedoms included many rights that to help Canadians become equal. Both of these stories led up to my birth. I was born on December 23, 1998. During this year, Jean Chrétien was still in office. He'd been in office since 1993 and ended in 2003. In my future, I want to become a software engineer because nowadays technology is a big part of what's going on. Tech people are in demand, and that is why I would like to pursue my dream of programming a legitimate video game. I would not be able to have this future if it wasn't for my parents' and grandparents' decision on coming to Canada, and also to thank Diefenbaker for his idea of the point system, to eliminate racism and many other factors on if they were allowed to immigrate. Immigration was decided upon point systems, given points for things that are needed. For example, a point is given if the person is English speaking. In conclusion, I wouldn't be able to thank for what I have in the future for what happened in the past in Canadian immigration.